said it before and I'm not backing away from it. I'm getting older. So much so is this the case that if I'd have stayed in the military for 20 years, I would have left in 2002 or 2003. All right, so I couldn't stay 30 years and still be in the military today. If that gives you any idea how long ago I was in. Okay, so I was in the military quite a long time ago. 2013 would have been the 30-year mark for me, if that gives you any idea. I had it easy. But I wanted to talk about weak men and strong men today on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I am your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Sunday the 13th of June of 2021. I'm glad to have everybody aboard today, whether on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube. Thanks for coming along. Hopefully you'll get something useful or meaningful out of what I say today. Again, I wanted to talk on the subject of weak men, strong men. And I chose to talk about this, getting in my notes, I chose to talk about this based on a couple segments Dan Bongino did where he talked about hard men, people who'd been through hard things and as a result had learned to steel themselves in ways that you can't begin to imagine, that the average individual can't begin to imagine. People who know much about me are aware I spent almost 9 years in the United States Air Force. My time in service was by no means hard, even though I did a couple of years in the Republic of Korea. In the senses Dan Bongino talked about, it wasn't hard in his hard men segments that he did recently, right? That said, even being a member of the military changes your thought patterns pretty much forever. It totally changes who you are as a human being. You can't really avoid it, even if you're just doing it for the paycheck. I'm pretty sure the same thing happens to police and other emergency workers too. They see things, they do things, they go through things. They have to learn to live with things that make it so that they have to change who they are substantially or leave the job. That's pretty much how that works in pretty much every case. All considered, one of the reasons I am not a fan of war is the radical change that must occur in those waging it, particularly as boots on the ground. Not only does it waste the lives of those folks in many cases because they never really recover, but it forever changes pretty much even those who don't spiral into madness. Think war is a good idea? Look at the people still today, from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and all the conflicts in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq, and so forth, who to this day have issues with various kinds as a result of serving. You can make an argument for needed war. As for me, you're going to have to work pretty hard to get me to agree with such a concept. That doesn't mean we don't still need strong men. We do, I promise you. They're needed, they're important, and they have to be strong for a variety of reasons having nothing to do with the military. Protecting their family from people who have no business doing various things that they do. Just a variety of things that come into play that make it so that we have to do things. Going out to work every single day. You might not think that takes a strong man, but lots of people give into the pressure of having to do that, and basically between that and other things that happen in their lives, including getting sucked into various things like substance abuse, they get turned into basically worthless individuals as far as it goes. I'm sorry that that's true, and I'm sorry that that's the reality, but boys and girls, that is the reality. By the way, you're going to have to forgive my computer doing its little buzzing thing that it does periodically, because I'm not going to stop the video in order to deal with it today. Look, weak men are a problem in pretty much any scenario. What strength looks like may not be what you expect it to look like or accept it being. But the reality is this. If there aren't strong men, what you end up with is a society much like the one we have today. Even with strong men, that will happen, because the strong men will go, I'm just going to do my stuff, I'm just going to power on through and get the things that I want and need and try to make it so my family has what they want and need. That's what they're going to do. I said before in a piece that I did, we are acting. It's just that when we act, what we do is go to work, be solid role models for our children, love our wives and husbands, try to keep our house, try to have a house, pay that car payment, trying not to take on too much debt in the process, pay all of those other bills that have to be paid. This too is being a strong man. It's not the kind of strength that Dan Bongino was talking about. The kind of strength that he was talking about is people who become, in some senses, ice cold, and what they're at, where they're at that moment in time, is mission focus. And I have to tell you something. I recognize what Dan was looking at, and I'm sorry that people have to live there. Look, I'm enough of a stoic. I don't need any help becoming even more so. The last thing I need in my life is a reason to be an ice-cold human being. I already do that on my own without even trying very hard. So you can imagine, for me, I would turn into a downright psychopath, sociopath individual. That's what would happen if I ended up being that type of person. So it's not that I don't appreciate that there are people out there who are hard and who have become hard based on their circumstances. And sometimes that's war, and sometimes that's just living a daily life, okay? And I recognize, like I say, that if you go into the military, you go into various kinds of services to the country, you will come out a different human being. And I took the easy road in a sense. I was Air Force, right? Somebody who's in the Marine Corps or infantry in the Army, those guys, they can't play when they get on the ground. They just can't. I'm not saying they never do anything fun or interesting or anything like that, and I'm not saying that they can't periodically take leave and go and do things that allow them to lighten the load for a little while. But I'm saying when they get on the ground, those people really have no choice but to be hard men. And the harder they are, in some senses, the more successful they are at the things that they're doing while they're in service. And I'm just going to say it again. As a general rule, this is one of the reasons that you have to push me really hard to the idea of war. I've heard people recently talk about splitting up the United States and talking about various things related to that, including no-fault divorce, essentially, where some states go one way and some states go another, which, if anything like that happens, that's sort of the preferred thing for me, and that over a long period of time as well. I've heard people talking about actual civil war again, which we haven't had in a very long time, and thank God for that. And I really mean that. Thank God for that. Thank God Almighty above for the fact that we haven't had civil war in a very long time. War is not just an ugly business. War is a business from which too many people never fully recover. And some of them recover to the point where they can actually be, quote, useful members of society again. But many of them, they just never get to that place again. Or they get to that place and they sort of hang on by the skin of their teeth, as it were, right? You just have to know that even for somebody who was a wimp in the military like me, being an Air Force member, even for me, and spending a couple of years in Korea, walking pretty much everywhere I went for the entire time that I was there, you have to know that it changes you in ways that people who have never done military service cannot imagine. And like I say, when you start to find the DMZ dogs, the guys who are on the DMZ between North and South Korea, or people who've done multiple tours in Afghanistan, even worse, or Iraq. I don't know if it's worse. It's hard to say what's worse there. But multiple tours in Iraq, multiple tours in Afghanistan, and various other places that are very dangerous places to be. Participated in various war-like activity or war activity. People who, like I say, went through the Korean War, Vietnam War, and so forth. Those people are changed forever. Even if I know a guy who went to Vietnam. You wouldn't really know it talking to the guy, and he's managed to survive for quite a long time. But I have to say that he was, I believe, at the time Air Force, and probably didn't go through nearly the same sort of thing a lot of folks did. My final word on this is this. I understand the need for hard men. Sometimes I am one. Not to the degree that a lot of these guys are. I understand the need for it. I hope and pray that as few men as possible become hardened by the fatigue of war as we can manage, in the course of U.S. history from this point going forward. Thanks for listening. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Saturday the, what was it, the 13th of, or excuse me, Sunday the 13th of June of 2021, Sunday the 13th of June of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Monday the 14th, as far as I can tell. I'm not able to see my notes. 14th of June of 2021. Thank you for everybody who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Again, YouTube is my preferred, or Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a positive Rumble on Rumble if you want to do that, a negative one if you don't like what I'm saying or feel I ramble or whatever. You can give me a thumbs up or a like on YouTube. You can give me a thumbs down or a dislike on YouTube as well, on both YouTube and Rumble. You can comment and tell me what you found good or bad about what I had to say. Hopefully things are going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on Monday's Daily Summation. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Sunday, June 13th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.